If you were to ask me any time over the last 15 years which one of my cars I was least likely to ever sell, it would have been the Honda S600. I love this car. I love everything about this car. It's been all over California with me. I've moved with it 6 times. It's been on Jay Leno's garage.
I love this thing!
I did donuts at Hoonigan with it. It's been to every car cruise in California worth going to, but these days I almost never drive it. It's only been out 2 times in the last 2.5 years. It is incredibly fun as a canyon car or at an autocross event, but that's not the kind of fun that I'm looking for these days. I don't want to sell this car, but I also don't want to leave it under a carport collecting cobwebs and dust. I don't want it to fade away. They say that if you truly love something, you should let it go, and I think it might be time for me to let this car go. I've loved the S600 for as long as I knew about it. Honda's first production car, a little roadster with what was basically a motorcycle engine, chain drive in the rear, 9,500 RPM in the mid-60s. This is such a cool car, but if you follow this channel, you know that I can't leave well enough alone. No, the S600 needed more than 43 horsepower. It needed about 4 times that, and it needed modern suspension and brakes. It is so close to a go-kart that it just needs a little more to be a full-blown street-legal go-kart. I found one for sale in Oklahoma. It had been listed for several months for $2,000. People used to not care about these cars. I talked the guy down to $1,700 and then my friend Bobby and I went to pick it up with his truck. We towed it halfway across the country on the cheapest tow dolly I could find, taking turns driving and sleeping in the back. The exhaust fell off somewhere in Arizona, but the car made it. I spent the next few years building up the suspension and the drivetrain. I knew I wanted to put a motorcycle engine in it from the get-go, partly because the engine it originally came with was basically a motorcycle engine, a high-revving 600cc 4-cylinder making about 45 horsepower. The one I bought did not come with an engine, which gave me a pretty good excuse to drop in a 1-liter sport bike engine making about 4 times that. Because, you know, why not? The suspension all got upgraded with custom geometry, with welded A-arms in the front and Miata control arms in the rear. The uprights and brakes are all from Mazda Miata, which are perfect for this lightweight car. The coilover shocks on all 4 corners are from the rear of motorcycles. The front, I think, are CBR 1000RR shocks, and the rears, I believe, are all from Yamaha R1 motorcycles. I actually don't remember. I did this all a while ago. I did make 2 videos detailing the build process that you should watch if you're interested. The original plan was to get the car running with updated suspension and powertrain and then clean up the bodywork and interior to make it look relatively stock from the outside. But I got it to this point where it was running and still ratty looking and I really liked it, so I just never painted it. I still like it. It is utterly unique. It has personality. When I bought the car, the Honda S600 was underappreciated. They weren't really worth very much, and I really liked the bare bones look, so I ended up selling all the glass and interior and chrome trim for not very much money. Of course, now these cars go for 10 times more than they were ever worth back then, so getting rid of all of these parts seems kind of dumb in retrospect. But it means the car is what it is. After the car was mostly finished, I was driving it up in the canyons around Los Angeles, and I came to a stop at a popular car hangout. I pulled over, shut off the car, undid my seatbelt, and looked up to see about 20 people who had gathered around my car, including Jay Leno. We chatted for a bit, and he invited me onto his show, Jay Leno's Garage, which you should check out if you want to see me smiling for 15 minutes straight. Hoonigan reached out to me a few years ago and asked if I wanted to do donuts in their burnyard with the car, which obviously I did. I originally built the car with 3 pedals like a normal manual transmission, but I pretty soon switched to a hand clutch. This is awesome. The transmission is sequential shift, which is one of the best things about this car. To shift down, you push forward. To shift up, you pull back, and neutral sits between first and second, just like a motorcycle. The hand clutch makes downshifting easier, and you can more easily left foot brake on racetracks if you're into that sort of thing. It has gone through a couple of iterations. While sequential motorcycle transmissions are awesome, they don't usually come with reverse. At first I would just get out of the car and push it, but that got to be annoying. So I added an inline reversing gearbox. This one is from Nova Transmissions in the UK, pretty cool little box. It lives just behind the engine in the middle of a 2-piece drive shaft. To switch it into reverse, you just pull on this cable, and to go forward, you just push it in. After a few years, I turned the car into a hybrid, adding a chain-driven electric motor parallel to the motorcycle engine. The motorcycle engine doesn't have a lot of power low in the rev range, and the electric motor does, so this seemed like a great matchup. And it was a fun project, but what made the car great was its simplicity, so I soon took out the hybrid motor and battery. I had originally welded up the differential, but it was a little sketchy in corner entry, so I swapped it out for a limited slip, and I had the angles recut to be more aggressive on acceleration and less aggressive on deceleration, and it really is perfect. I've taken it to a few racetracks and autocross events. It is so much fun at these places, although Chuckwalla was maybe a little bit too big and fast of a track for this small car. The sustained lateral forces on the long sweeping turns resulted in oil starvation and an engine failure, which actually turned out to be a great excuse to upgrade the engine from a 2007 to a 2017, which has a little more power. Also, I designed a custom dry sump system for it so that engine failures hopefully would not happen again. I moved with it several times, always finding a spot to tuck away this small car. It has been a fixture in my driveway for 15 years, outlasting girlfriends and jobs and pandemics. I have a lot of history with it. It has followed me everywhere. It is the lead image on my YouTube page. It has been the outro of every video I've ever put on YouTube. It was my first million-view video. It is so much fun to drive. It has so much personality. This is easily my favorite car I've ever owned. And you know what? I'm not going to sell it. I'm keeping it. Forget about it. Why would I sell this car? Video over. Go home. Forget about it. It's mine. Okay, but I actually am going to sell the car. As much as I love this car, I don't really drive it. I have other cars I'd rather drive, other projects I'd rather work on. If I lived closer to canyon roads, or if I went to autocross or track days more often, I'd keep it, but I just don't. It doesn't take up much space, and it doesn't cost much to keep, so it sat there under a car cover until eventually I came to the realization that it's time for it to find a new home. So I went out and took the car cover off and found so much dust and leaves and spider webs. I basically barn found my own car. Before I sell this car, it needs a few things. The tune on the ECU was always pretty good, but never great, so I took it to the dyno to get it tuned in a little bit better. We came out with just under 10 more horsepower, totaling about 170 at the wheels, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the car weighs half as much as a Miata, so I assure you, it is more than enough. One thing that has bothered me about this car for a long time is that dry sump system leaks oil. Not a lot, but it's enough that there's always a noticeable puddle under the car after it sits for a while. So I decided to just remove the dry sump system. Or at least I did at first. I took it all out of the car with the intention of just running a regular wet sump with a shortened oil pan. I thought it would be fun to design and build a dry sump system, and it was, but the truth is this could have been solved by overfilling the oil and possibly also adding an AccuSump type system. And so I decided to just remove the dry sump system and just do that. But after I took it out and thought about it for a while, I decided I really do like the dry sump except the oil leak. So I just fixed the oil leak. I found all the places it could be leaking from and welded or otherwise thoroughly sealed it up, cleaned everything up, and reassembled it all. I cleaned up all the oil I could find on the underside of the car and filled it back up with oil, careful not to spill any, and it's everywhere. I cleaned that up and then finished filling up the oil and then the water. I still need to fasten everything down, but this seemed like a good time to start up the engine and see if it runs, and see if there's any more leaking oil. With the engine started, I checked the dry sump tank to make sure oil was flowing into it, and sure enough, it was. Then I checked under the car for any small signs of a leak, and oh boy. We'll just say there is room for improvement. The clear liquid is not water, it's actually gasoline. I found that coming out of this connector here, which was loose for some reason. I vaguely remember loosening this, but I don't remember why. This line tees off to the nitrous solenoid. Anyway, the oil leaking back here is coming from the outlet for the dry sump pump. This pump is from Daily Engineering. They do a lot of dry sumps. It's a great pump. It replaces the water pump, which is now just this electric guy here. Anyway, the outlet is an AN fitting that was binding for some reason, so I just bought and installed a new one, hooked everything up, and so far, no oil leaks. This car has a bikini top, which is just kind of part of a convertible roof. This one was originally designed for a Miata, but I adapted it by building a front wind deflector and some anchors in the rear. It does sag sadly in the middle of the roll hoops. I used to have a piece of aluminum angle zip tied on the top of the hoops to support it, but I decided to class it up a little bit with a new bar. I scanned and designed some 3D printed clamps to hold a crossbar. The clamps are made from glass-filled ABS, partly for the strength, but mostly because I like the texture and the look. I had plans to 3D print a removable hardtop out of this stuff and then coat it with a layer of carbon fiber, kind of the same way I did the bump out on the van. I think it would be pretty easy to do with a larger bamboo printer, printing a dozen or so parts with interlocking features, but I never got around to it. Keeping with the theme of building this with stuff I have lying around, I made the crossbar with some electrical conduit, but I spray painted it black, so nobody will ever know. There's also this bar supporting the middle of the bikini top, front to rear, and that is made from PVC pipe. But I wiped off the text with some acetone and you can't tell anymore, so nobody will ever know. Another thing this car needed done before I sell it was to swap over the voltage rectifier. When I swapped the engine from the 2007 to the 2017, I kept the old rectifier in there and it doesn't charge the battery consistently. I bought a new one and then I left it sitting on my shelf. Then I decided to drive 60 miles away to Angeles Crest Highway, and just as I got to the fun part of the road, the car started to sputter and my O2 gauge showed low voltage. I have AAA, so I just had it towed home, where I promptly swapped in the new rectifier. I also swapped in new 5-point harnesses. The old ones were okay, just faded and out of date. I also added roll bar padding on the roll bars. This is a thing I should have done years ago. There are a few things wrong with this car that I'm just not going to fix. One of them is the speedometer. It stopped working years ago and I never cared enough to fix it. It might be this thing I have plugged into the speed sensor that changes the signal to account for the different gearing. Could be the sensor, could be something else. I don't care. When you're in top gear, you can tell the vehicle speed by looking at the tach. When it says 6,000 RPM, you're going 60 miles per hour. 8,000 RPM is 80 miles per hour. You could also use GPS on your phone or try to fix whatever's wrong or just not care like I have for the last several years. The rear of this car is really stiff. I swapped the springs in the front to softer, but the rears are still pretty hard. The rear suspension is bell crank, and there are softer settings built into the design that you can move to. It's great on track, but you might consider swapping the bell crank leverage or even just swapping in softer springs. I added 2 of these high mount brake lights to the roll bars for safety, but the one on the left side only partially works, so that's a thing. There's also a rip in the bikini top. Still works fine, but it is there. The front right wheel has a bend in the lip where someone hit a curb. I'm not going to say who it was. It's not important. Let's not point any fingers. This car has nitrous oxide. It has the bottle, the lines, the solenoids, and the jets. I used to have a separate nitrous controller, but I got rid of that and had the plan of wiring up the Megasquirt ECU to control it. But here's the deal. I don't remember if I did that or not. I don't know if the nitrous switch is wired to the engine control unit or if the ECU is wired to the solenoids or if I programmed it in the ECU, and I'm not going to do it. This car already has 4 times the horsepower that Honda initially put in it, so if you want to kick that up even more, you're going to have to figure that one out on your own. After I swapped in the new engine and the dry sump, I added an oil pressure sensor hooked up to a light that comes on when the pressure gets too low. But the sensor is reading wrong, so the light is always on. I fixed this by putting tape over the light. So that's a thing. Cosmetically, the car has a few small issues. There's a tiny nick in the paint up here you can see if you look really closely. There might also be a few other issues for those of you that are really picky about this sort of thing. You can't say much about the paint, except that it is there. Except where it's not. If you're a fan of this channel, or you've made it this far into the video, you may be thinking that this is the right car for you. A perfect daily driver for you and your relaxed lifestyle. But let me take a moment to try to convince you that this might not be the car for you. Don't get me wrong, there is someone out there who this car is perfect for, probably several of them. But there are so many more people who should not buy it. This car is a double-edged sword. There are great things about it, and they all come with unavoidable trade-offs. This car is a visceral driving experience. You are connected to the road like no other car. There is no power steering, no power brakes, no traction or stability control, no airbags. Your butt cheeks are literally inches from the ground, separated by a thin sheet of metal from 1960s Japan. You can feel the gears engaging through the shift lever. It is as engaging as it is abrasive. Every car company has a department called NVH where engineers try to reduce noise, vibration, and harshness to make the driving experience more relaxing and quiet, and this car is the antithesis of all of that. It is as though those engineers went out of their way to make a car that maximizes all of those things. The safety department also took the day off with this car. Don't let the roll hoops and 5-point racing harnesses fool you. If you get T-boned by a truck, you're going to have a very bad day. There is nothing about this car that gives me the impression that Honda even had a safety engineer in 1964. The roll hoops might help in a rollover, but they might also just punch right through the 60-year-old sheet metal. The car is so low to the ground that the road dirt and exhaust and everything else will swirl up into the driver compartment and right into your nose. I'm sure you noticed me wearing a mask in some of these videos. That's not because I'm worried about getting COVID in my open-top car by myself on the highway. It's because my sinuses get easily irritated, so if I'm driving this car for more than about 15 minutes, I put on a mask. Also, earplugs or noise-canceling headphones are very nice for long drives. Visibility is great because there is no roof, but you do have to turn your head a lot because the fender mirrors, while they look cool, are mostly useless. The rear view mirror is great, except at night when other drivers' headlights all point directly at it. One of my favorite things to do with this car is go to a car meet and find the row of Ferraris and McLarens and park next to them. Then I'll watch people walk past millions of dollars in cars to look at my rusty old Honda. I love it. This car gets more attention than anything I've ever owned except the Viper. But at the end of the day, when those guys are driving home in traffic with air conditioning and ventilated seats, you will be driving home in what is essentially a go-kart with a license plate. This car is engaging like no other car, but you have to be engaged while you're driving it. If you want to relax, you have to pull over and stop. The things that make this car great are also the kind of things that make it unpleasant. If this all sounds great to you, go ahead and put your bid in. Just know what you're getting yourself into. If you want to get in on Superfast Matt swag, but a whole car is out of your budget, I have good news. I made more keychains. I originally made these to put on my race car to lock out the fire system and the parachutes, kind of like the remove before flight tags you see on airplanes. But I also taped a bunch of them to the car and then broke a record with them taped to the car. Well, those sold out in about 90 minutes, and I had a bunch of people asking me to make new ones. These were not taped to the car for the record run, but they do come with stickers. Also, I printed extra of the certified good enough sticker, so the first several people who order a keychain will get 2 of those. The link is in the description. I suggest you order soon because the last one sold out really fast. I do have one last keychain that was attached to the car for the record-breaking run, but to get that one, you gotta buy the S600. This car is currently listed at Cars and Bids. The link to the auction is in the description. I'm not going to put a reserve on this auction. This car goes for whatever it goes for, and I have no idea what it's worth. This car was underappreciated when I got it years ago, so I got it for pretty cheap, but now they go for several tens of thousands of dollars in good condition. Mine is in unique condition. It is a unique car. There is nothing in the world like it. And if you do buy it and you have some questions about how something was made or how to fix something, you can shoot me an email and I will not answer that email. I'll probably answer it, but don't count on it. You should be handy with a wrench if you plan on bidding on this car. Not because it's not reliable, but because if something does need fixed or adjusted, the Honda dealer will definitely not help you. I hope someone buys it who will drive it and enjoy it. Someone handy in the garage who might want to do some of the things I had planned for it. New door trim, simple custom dash, maybe a carbon fiber hardtop. Whatever that person wants to do to make it a little more unique. But the truth is, I'm not that worried about who this car goes to. It's time for it to be somebody else's car. Somebody else's weekend autocrosser or canyon carver. A unique character in somebody else's story.